Rachel Zegler just collapsed in Dubai, physically and possibly career-wise. This might truly be the end of the line. The actress, once touted as Disney's next major princess, has now found herself at the heart of one of the biggest and most relentless PR disasters Hollywood has encountered in years. Once celebrated as the fresh face of a new Disney generation, Rachel Zegler is now quietly gossiped about behind closed doors, gaining a reputation as the performer who couldn't salvage her image or her relationships. What started as minor internet rumblings escalated into a full-on public outcry, fueled by a press tour that spiraled out of control, viral missteps, and a torrent of online backlash. Insiders reveal that well before her movie's release, Disney executives were already anxious, and tensions were reportedly flaring behind the scenes. The sentiment? Maybe this actress doesn't deserve a feature film. Months of growing strain, sensational headlines, and uneasy interviews led to a dramatic and potentially irreversible turn of events. Whatever transpired in Dubai has become a hot topic of speculation, with rumors involving emotional breakdowns, career sabotage, and ultimate betrayals, painting a far darker picture than anyone initially assumed. Word is that Rachel Zegler is suing Disney Studios for wrongful termination and discrimination. Nobody seems to grasp exactly what's happening. Many believe Rachel just needs to step away from the spotlight. Apparently, there's talk about her suing Disney and others for cutting back some of her Snow White promotional appearances because of mounting controversies. But here's the thing. Before the movie was even out, she was already talking publicly about how she intended to uplift women in the film and how there wouldn't be a prince, which might have rubbed Disney the wrong way, as those comments seemingly did nothing but harm the film's image. But let's rewind before we get to Dubai. What went down in that glittering Middle Eastern city didn't appear out of nowhere. It was simply the final act in a saga that had been unraveling for months, maybe even years. Rachel Zegler's public persona was already precariously perched before the global headlines hit, and her downfall began long before she ever boarded a plane. To fully comprehend this collapse, how a performer went from Disney royalty to a public villain, we have to look back at the early warnings, the decisions, the controversies, and the cracks under the surface that most overlooked. Producers, left-wing activists in Hollywood, and even Disney itself all seemed to turn on her. Disney allegedly canceled every single one of Rachel Zegler's appearances on its media platforms. Let's trace our steps back, because this meltdown didn't happen on foreign ground. It all started with Snow White. This movie was supposed to be a bold reimagining of a beloved classic. Instead, it's become widely considered one of Disney's most humiliating failures. The Snow White remake didn't merely underperform, it tanked worse than anyone had predicted. Its second weekend saw a staggering 66% drop at the box office, making it officially the worst-performing Disney live-action remake yet. Even 2019's Dumbo, widely deemed a misstep, didn't collapse so dramatically. Snow White has now hit rock-bottom ratings on IMDb. For a Disney princess film, the abysmal reception is astonishing. People are even doubtful it'll keep a 1-star rating given the flood of negative reviews. Movie theaters remain empty, and see the silence within them louder than any box office statistic. Fans have documented entire screenings with just 1 or 2 spectators, if that. And this wasn't a localized issue. Footage emerged from across the nation, showing row after row of unoccupied seats, deserted ticket kiosks, and popcorn machines churning for an audience that never arrived. Social media immediately picked up on it, unleashing a wave of memes and reaction posts, none of which spelled good news for Disney. These weren't supportive fans, they were capturing a real-time implosion. Attendance was practically non-existent, and some of the sparse attendees even took selfies in the deserted auditoriums. While those clips went viral, garnering millions of views, it wasn't the kind of publicity Disney wanted. By this point, the film seemed doomed, well on its way to becoming an all-time flop, leaving executives scrambling for an explanation while fans fixed their gaze on a single culprit: Rachel Zegler. Even before the movie's debut, Rachel seemed determined to dig her own grave, except she used a microphone and Twitter instead of a shovel. She was alienating the exact audience Disney needed her to enchant. Long before critics even watched a scene, she was out on a promotional blitz that seemed to sabotage the film rather than elevate it. Nearly every interview became a viral sensation for all the wrong reasons. Flippant remarks about the original Snow White, offhand jabs at co-stars, or comments that came across as arrogant or out of touch. Each statement only fanned the flames, and social media erupted, accusing her of disrespecting both the legacy she was stepping into and the fans she was supposed to win over. By the time the film premiered, many potential viewers had already judged her harshly. In a now-famous interview, Rachel labeled the 1937 prince as basically a stalker, even calling him just a guy, cast in the film without real romance attached. Her co-star Andrew Burnap was supposed to be a modern Disney prince, someone who worked intensively to bring fresh life to the role. He auditioned repeatedly, poured himself into the character, and was thrilled when he learned he was cast. For Andrew, it felt like a pivotal turning point, an opportunity for mainstream success. Yet, as the press tour moved forward, Rachel effectively erased him from the conversation. In one interview, she joked about how Andrew's scenes could end up on the cutting room floor because that's Hollywood, baby, which insiders say left him stunned and devalued. According to one source, Andrew felt deeply wounded by her repeated public belittling of the romantic storyline, making him feel minimized in a role he had devoted himself to. And from the public's point of view, Rachel's stance was often interpreted as a broader reflection of how the creative team viewed Andrew's prince. Before long, rumors spread about a chilly on-set atmosphere, loaded with tension, silent confrontations, and behind-the-scenes friction. This wasn't a simple creative disagreement anymore. It was personal. Andrew found himself caught in a PR hurricane he couldn't control, but Andrew wasn't the only one under fire. Enter Gal Gadot, one of the most recognized names in contemporary film, celebrated for her commanding performances on and off screen. Cast as the evil queen, Gal was intended to lend the project some star power and gravitas. On paper, it was brilliant. In reality, everything detonated once international politics intruded. Gal is a former IDF soldier and openly supportive of Israel, giving her a global reputation and a distinct political presence. Suddenly, the two leading ladies were on opposing ends of a charged global dispute, and the tension ran straight from the headlines into the corridors of the studio. A single tweet from Rachel, in which she showed support for Palestine soon after. The Snow White trailer dropped, kicked off a social media inferno. Many saw the timing as disastrous for a production that was already in precarious shape. The tweet stirred heated arguments and split the fan base. Disney executives, apparently caught off guard, scrambled to figure out how to handle it. This tweet inadvertently dragged the film's internal dynamics into a worldwide debate. Gal Gadot, associated with pro-Israel sentiments, found herself unwillingly dragged into an explosive conflict. Where once she and Rachel had a working relationship, now they were on opposite sides of a political schism. Tension soared, leaving the project's promotional strategy in shambles. Gal started getting serious threats, prompting Disney to ramp up security. Behind the scenes, panic mode ensued. A producer supposedly flew to New York to speak with Rachel face-to-face and try to defuse the crisis, but it was too late. The damage was done. Gal, for her part, was reportedly livid. At red carpet events, Rachel and Gal rarely shared the spotlight. They didn't do joint interviews, and at a premiere in Spain, Gal didn't even appear. An insider told People magazine, "They are not friends. They work together, and that's it." All of this pointed to one person stirring up discord. Again, Rachel Zegler. Disney executives, who had invested a massive $270 million in the movie, watched helplessly as it careened off the rails. Then, as though feuding with co-stars wasn't enough, Rachel went on an anti-Trump rampage on Instagram. She posted messages labeling Trump voters as people who never deserved peace, calling them a deep sickness, and capped it off with F Donald Trump. Regardless of your personal stance on Trump, Disney was the last entity wanting to be dragged into polarized political discourse. Suddenly, almost half the country aimed its ire at Rachel, threatening boycotts and demanding she be fired. Panicked, Disney pressed her to apologize, which she did, but the internet never forgets, and neither, it seemed, did Disney. As rumors circulated about Disney possibly severing ties, unconfirmed whispers floated that Rachel was axed from other prospective projects. Some even claimed she was preparing a lawsuit against Disney for wrongful termination and discrimination. True or not, the fact remained. She was quickly losing supporters. In a last-ditch effort, Rachel tried a personal approach, appearing in theaters to back her own movie, only to be greeted by empty seats, captured by her friend, and posted online. It became an instant meme, turning Rachel into a cautionary tale of a dream turned nightmare. Which brings us to Dubai. Allegedly, Rachel visited the UAE for a private event connected to a new pitch, an attempt to revamp her image after the Snow White fiasco. The event itself supposedly never took off. Some say she collapsed from sheer fatigue. Others insist it was an emotional breakdown, that she crumpled backstage after receiving final word from Disney that her days there were finished. No formal statement has emerged, and her representatives have remained silent, but witnesses claim she looked utterly defeated. Whether from stress, panic, or physical overload, Rachel Zegler's fall in Dubai represented more than a health scare. It served as a symbol. What's next? Disney has gone mute. Andrew Burnap has gone off the radar. Gal Gadot is moving on. Rachel has been writing cryptic Instagram posts about personal growth and release. Insiders report that Hollywood is paying attention, and many casting professionals are wary of risking another debacle like this. How does an actress go from being a likely award contender to a social media punchline? The fall has been swift, relentless, and some argue it's well-earned. Still, there could be a twist. Could she salvage her standing, or has this fairy tale met its grim finale? Share your thoughts below. Is Rachel Zegler a casualty of cancel culture, or did she sabotage her own career? Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on those notifications and get ready for the next shocking tale from Tinseltown. Because in Hollywood, no star remains untouchable forever, and the next collapse may be closer than we think.